Hey guys, Chris with Valawa Hikes. Welcome back. If you are new here, this is a channel for beginner backpackers. And today I want to know, what are you afraid of? Let's talk about it. So you can do all the research in the world, learn everything, buy all the best gear. But if you haven't been out there yet, you might have a few fears. So let's talk about those today. Especially if you have a comfortable life indoors and you've never been camping before, definitely there can be some anxiety around going backpacking. So let's talk about some of the fears that I had and some of the fears that I've heard other people have when thinking about backpacking. And probably the number one thing I hear about is, aren't you afraid of bears? Are you bringing a gun? Do you have bear spray? And I have never owned bear spray, and I would never take a gun backpacking. That's a terrible idea. And oh my God, those are heavy, right? So bears get a bad rap. In most places in North America, you're going to encounter, if any bears, usually black bears. Black bears are fairly docile. They are not aggressive generally. And really in the national parks like Yosemite, they are a problem because they become accustomed to attributing humans with food. And so that's why there are bear lockers and things like that. Because if the bears are coming around and looking for food, and if they become aggressive, generally they're put down. And so we want to be responsible in not attracting bears to us. But for the most part, bears are going to run away from you if you see them. Really, the only bear encounters that humans have with black bears, for the most part, are in those high traffic parks where bears, again, go looking for food because humans bring food. They do not take care of the food or store it properly, and that becomes a problem. Now, the one time that a black bear could be aggressive is if you startle one, surprise one that has a cub, and if you happen to get between a mother and her cub, that can be a problem, understandably so. However, that's pretty rare. So for the most part, bears are not going to be a problem in most areas. Having said that, Montana, Yellowstone, there are grizzly bears out there. Grizzly bears are big and scary. So if you are backpacking in a place with grizzly bears, probably bear spray is a good idea. Educate yourself, listen to the rangers. Hike in groups if you're in grizzly bear country. Pacific Crest Trail Days, I just learned that grizzlies are going to be reintroduced into Washington State. So some education pieces there. But for the most part, bears aren't scary. They just raid your picnic baskets. So the second fear that I hear about with backpackers that are new is the fear of getting lost. So for the most part, if you're a beginner backpacker, probably best to stay on established trails. These are generally well marked. Usually there are maps available, and definitely there are lots of apps. I personally use Gaia. That doesn't mean that's the best. It's the best for me. But there are lots of apps. You can download trails onto those. And that helps you not get lost. Also, if you're super worried about it, don't go solo for your early trips. Bring a friend. It's a lot more fun to get lost with a friend. So aside from bears being the number one thing I'm asked about, I would say the most common fear with new backpackers is the fear of pooping in the woods. And it's going to happen if you're out there for more than a day or two, right? So just know it's natural to poop, of course. And yeah, there's a lot of fear around that, a lot of anxiety. Some people are afraid that somebody will see them pooping, or they'll get it on them, or whatever. And in some places, you have to use a wag bag. You poop literally onto a bag and carry it out. And definitely, there's some anxiety around that for new backpackers. And yeah, that's tough. Definitely the fear of getting it on you, like poop's not going to kill you, likely anyway. But do your research, read the book, How to Shit in the Woods. That's fantastic. Lots of videos out there on how to poop. You're going to dig a hole and poop in it. Or, go backpacking to a place that has toilets. And there are some of those in the backcountry. There were toilets in the encampments. And again, they're not outhouses. So there's definitely some anxiety that somebody's going to walk up there and see you pooping and, then your life will be over or whatever, right? So anyway, you can manage. Don't stay home and not go backpacking because you're afraid to poop. I've also heard the fear that people are going to freeze to death. So certainly don't take your Walmart sleeping bag in December and start backpacking. Like, that's dumb. Maybe you would freeze to death. But for the most part, if you have the right gear, you're going to stay comfortable out there. Now, I got a little chilly one of the nights when I was going around the Timberline Trail. I had a 40-degree bag. It got down to around, around that one night. But I just wore my puffy, layer up, wear socks, thermals, but get a good sleeping bag that's going to be appropriate to the season you're in. So 40-degree bag is generally pretty good in summer in North America. 20-degree bag is what I'll use as I get into the shoulder seasons. But the sleeping bag itself is only going to be part of the help you need. You need a good pad underneath. So generally an inflatable pad with an R value that is high enough to keep you warm. And we can talk about that in another video, but there's also lots of information out there about R value. So just bring appropriate clothing for the weather. And a puffy jacket and gloves are a great idea because it can get chilly at night. But if you start backpacking in the summertime and you're not at 1,200 feet, you're probably going to be fine. I've also experienced people who say they are afraid they're going to forget something crucial. For instance, I suppose they're afraid they're going to get out there and realize they left their sleeping bag at home, or tent stakes, or something like that. That's really not going to happen unless you are a complete unorganized mess. But it definitely helps to make a list or have an app, like Don't Forget the Spoon. That one was helpful for me in packing. That way you can check off everything you're going to take and not forget anything. Definitely don't forget a spoon. I have done that, and it really is hard to eat dehydrated meals without a spoon. But yeah, just make a list. You'll be okay. Some people have mentioned fear of other people out there. And in 25 years, I have had nothing but positive experiences for the most part with other people in the backwoods. And that's because, most of us are putting in the work to get to these beautiful places, and we're there for the right reasons. Now, having said that, I did have an uncomfortable scenario in October a couple of years ago. hiking to Aneroid Lake in the Wallowa Mountains. It was October 1st, so definitely not hiking season. You know, there was a lot of frost in the mornings. It's really close to snow time up there. And I ran into a group of 4 guys, and they had rifles, which I found to be very odd since it was a wilderness area, although there was private cabins up there, but it was not hunting season. And when they saw me, they asked if I was alone, if I was just out for a day hike. And I was a little evasive there because, I don't know, it just felt sketchy to me. You know, and I didn't sleep real well that night. But, you know, no further bad interactions. I don't even know if that was a bad interaction, but trust your gut with people. But for the most part, yeah, people out there just there to enjoy the same thing you are. Now, I would say if you're a female and you're solo backpacking, that can, you know, raise some concerns. I can't really relate myself, but generally when I see females in the backcountry, they're in groups, and that's good. Because even though I imagine most of the people in the backcountry are good people, in the society we live in, yeah, just if anybody asks, you know, generally, like in the instance I had with those guys, I was like, no, I'm not hiking alone. You know, I got more people joining me. Things like that are a good idea. But honestly, I don't think you're ever going to have a bad experience except for the asshole that's got his Bluetooth playing super loud out there. If you're really concerned about other people out there, do not watch anything that Kyle Hates Hiking has published in the last 6 months. God bless him. Love Kyle O'Grady. I fell in love with his channel when he was young. But yeah, just trust me, don't watch any of his new stuff. Just go way back if you're going to watch Kyle. You know, support him, just don't. If you're afraid of something bad happening to you, don't. Just don't. In some communities, I think the biggest fear for backpackers is Bigfoot. So, my thoughts on that are, Bigfoot is not real. Don't be afraid of Bigfoot. The only Bigfoot I am aware of is the guy who is hiking the Pacific Crest Trail currently with Frozen. Go check out Frozen's channel, Outdoor Adventures. And he's not scary. So, don't worry about Bigfoot. So that's about all I can think of currently as far as fears go, but I know there's lots of things out there. My personal fears stop at forgetting a spoon for the most part at this point. All of those fears that I mentioned before can be alleviated through preparation or partnership with other people. So don't be afraid to go backpacking. But if you do have something you're afraid of that I didn't mention, please leave a comment below. If you have any advice for people on their fears, also comment below. I love having a good discussion. So that's all I got today. Hope to see you out there. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.